To begin texturing our model, we're going to first have to begin to think about materials. And the interesting thing about materials is that when we create a material in Blender, apply it to our model, and then export that model and take it into Substance Painter, Substance Painter sees that material as a texture set. And for every texture set you have in Substance Painter, when you export your texture maps out, it will automatically export texture maps for each of the texture sets. And for each texture set, you're probably going to have at least 4 texture maps, like the color map, normal map, metallic, roughness. There are others, but mainly those are the 4 that you're probably going to be exporting out. So if I go through here in Blender and add materials to each and every piece of this object, say I add a material for the windows and a material for the main chassis of the vehicle and maybe another material for the headlights, etc., on and on. For every one of those materials, Substance Painter will create a texture set. So if you have, say, 100 materials on your object here, then when you're exporting your textures out in Substance Painter, you're going to have 400 texture maps. And then you'll have to, in Unity or any game engine, go through and apply each of those texture maps to your materials, drag them into your texture slots. So it's really beneficial for us to reduce the number of materials that we apply to the model here in Blender. Okay, that's great and all, but if we're going to, say, only have one material for the entire vehicle here, how are we going to differentiate between, say, the glass on the windows and the black plastic on the lights and the metal of the hood and the rubber or plastic of the fenders? How are we going to differentiate those parts in Substance Painter if we aren't going to use materials? Well, what we can do is use a color ID map, and we can create those colors here in Blender using Vertex Paint. And Vertex Paint you can find right over here under the Object menu pull down. You can change to Vertex Paint. And here we go. Now, it doesn't look like a whole lot has changed. However, if we come over to the Face Selection masking here and turn that on, now we can see the edges of our polygons here in Vertex Paint. And what we're going to do is apply a different color for each of the areas that we want a different material to be on in Substance Painter. So bear with me here. I think it'll make sense as we go forward. All right, to do this though, I think what I'll do, let me go back to object mode. I'm going to hide the things we don't really need. And I think I'm going to clean up the outliner here. So we don't need the machine gun right now. I'm going to turn that off. We're going to deal with that after we work on the vehicle here. Our wheels, we could go ahead and hide that and hide this wheel here. Up in the vehicle main, well, we've still got our model labeled as that original plane that we created when we began the hood. So let's change this. Let's call it vehicle. There we go. And I think I'm going to take this and drag it out into the scene collection. And this side view here somehow got moved into the vehicle main. Let's drag that into the reference images, and we can hide the reference images as well. So the vehicle main doesn't have anything in it anymore. Let's go ahead and delete that. I'm thinking maybe we should go ahead and just bring these objects out into the scene collection as well. And maybe let's delete that collection here, that wheels collection. The chains, we can enable the chains here. Those are cool and all, but I think that's just too many polygons. I don't want to deal with that. Let's go ahead and remove those. Delete that. So I'm going to select the object and let's go ahead and tab into edit mode. And then from edit mode, I'll switch over to Vertex Paint. And what that does is when I hit the tab key, it'll take me from Vertex Paint to edit mode, back and forth. So in Vertex Paint, let's come over here and choose this top tab, the context tab, and that will give us our brush tools and our color picker. I think to do this, I'm going to need a reference image. So at least for now, I don't need the outliner. So I'm going to change to an image editor up here. And let's see if we can find an image that at least gives us a general feel of the different materials and colors on this. Maybe I'll go with this one right here. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so what we want to do is tell Substance Painter through the use of vertex colors which parts of this is what kind of material. So the main material here, as you can see, is this kind of tan desert sand color body. And let's now create the vertex color for that. Now it doesn't matter what color it is. Substance Painter doesn't care about what color it is. It only cares about the difference in colors. So if we say tab into edit mode, and I'm going to press the L key right here, and I'm going to turn off seams for now right here. So we select that whole hood object, and then I'll press L here, and let's press L here. And now up here, the grill is a different color, a different material. We're going to want to put a different material on the grill than on the hood. So let's come through here and go to face mode and deselect these. Let's do that. Let's deselect those. We don't want those to be the same material. So with this highlighted now, let's tab back into Vertex Paint. And now with this selected, you can see it's a different shade than all the rest. We need to choose what color we're going to create here. I think maybe I'll just come over here and in the color picker, I'll just drag over for a green. Now I want to be able to come back to this exact color because any difference in color will be seen in Substance Painter as a different material. So I want to be able to come back to this exact color. I'm going to scroll the color palette down and create a new color palette so that all I've got to do is hit the plus key here, and that adds that color to my palette, so I can always come back to it. So with this selected, I just need to fill this selected area with the color, and to fill, you press Shift K, and there you go. So now we've got this particular color signifying this particular material here on the hood. And we want to go ahead and add it to really almost everything else. So I'm going to tab back into edit mode, and I'll deselect that, and I'll just use the L key to begin coming through and selecting objects in here. So let's grab these here, and I'll press the tab key to go back to Vertex Paint, Shift K, tab back into edit mode, and there we go. So you can see what we've done so far. If we tab back into edit mode, let's select some more. I'll select these and this and these hinges here like this. Tab into Vertex Paint, Shift K, and there we go. All right, so that's how we're going to tell Substance Painter what material is what. So let's say the rear fender here, right here, let's select those. If I tab back into edit mode, I'll hit the L key to select that and the L key to select that. Now for these, let's tab back into Vertex Paint and let's create a new color here. I'm just going to drag over to the blue, add that to my palette, and then in here I'll press Shift K. And now that blue is going to signify a different material on that rear fender. Okay, so if I tab back into edit mode and go back up here, say, and begin selecting these parts here, these are going to be the same thing as the hood and the cab. So I can tab back into Vertex Paint, and then I need to go back to my green here, Shift K, and assign that color to those objects as well. So that's our process. We're going to go through and assign colors to all of the rest of this so that even though this vehicle will be one material, we'll have different colors to signify in Substance Painter what it should see as different materials. So if I tab back into edit mode, and I'm going to go back to object mode here, let me go over to the materials panel here. Currently, this has just one material on it, the UV test pattern. We, of course, don't want to use that particular material. So what we can do for this object is remove that here with the minus key here, and then click New, and we'll call this new material, we'll call it Vehicle. And there we go. So that's what we need to do. We need to assign our different colors in Vertex Paint so that even though we've only got one material and therefore one texture set on this object, we're going to have multiple materials within Substance Painter based on the different colors of the Color ID map. So in the next video, we'll continue adding our vertex colors.